welcome to Rampallians. For those who don't know, Rampallians is a card game where you basically create a deck of 40 cards to play in a 1v1. There are 4 factions in the main game, but in the demo there's just 2, orcs and elves, and in the main game there's dwarfs and humans as well. In the main game you'll have a deck builder here, but in the demo you just have 2 recommended decks, which we will see shortly. You can just press this big blue button to be put into a game with a random person online. But I'm going to go into the custom games. There's lots of settings here for playing online or playing on LAN, or you can do hot seat or play against a bot. It will automatically put you in a game with a bot if it can't find it. Well, it'll ask you first, but yeah, when you search for a game in quick play, if it doesn't find a game in 10 seconds, it asks if you want to be put into a bot. When you first go into the game, it'll ask if you want to play the tutorials, which I recommend doing anyone who's not played, because there's a lot to try and get your head around in this game. But I'm just going to turn off turn timers and then look for a game. The reason I turn off turn timers while I'm streaming is just because it gives me extra time to talk about what's going on, and explain my thought process and a bit about the cards and things without having to worry as much. So when the game starts, you'll see these two decks. These are the 2 recommended decks for the field, for the demo. Sorry. And as I say, there's an elf one and an orc one. We'll play the orc one today. They're a bit simpler probably. Then I guess if there's time, we might play an elf one as well. So when you are once you've selected your deck, you then get this screen up here to select your field, where you can choose your configuration of the 4 resources in the game. So that's food, wood, gold and ore. The game will give you a recommended deck based on the resources that are the cards in your deck. So I've got cards here that clearly cost a lot of gold, and there's a decent amount of food as well. Wood and ore not so much. So it's given me 2 gold slots, 2 food slots, and then 1 of the other 2. You have to have at least 1 of each, but you you can choose. You could have 3 of one, and that's just as valid. But I'll stick with the recommended deck for now, for the sake of this stream. And then I'm handed my starting hand, which is it's always 5 cards, and you basically decide what of these cards do I want to keep, which of these cards will I shuffle back into my deck and see if I can redraw. So I'll just send these 2 cards back. We've got a decent range between these 3 cards of sort of early, middle, and later game cards. There are more expensive cards than that, but I mean, it's not a bad start. So I'll just mulligan those 2, see what we get. And then once both players have mulliganed, the game starts. So you choose both players choose their gatherer. So you play your gatherer onto one of the 6 slots on your board. You're basically saying, you automatically gather 1 wood, 1 gold, or based on your board, you gather 1 for each of your columns. But a gatherer then increases that gather rate by 1. So at the moment, I'm going to get 2 food, 2 gold, 1 or 1 wood, and I can see that if I put a gatherer on gold, I'll be able to play my Spirit card. And I want to do that because that's a good early game card. So I'm going to play my gatherer on 2 gold. And so then the game randomly chooses which player is going to go first out of the 2 people in the game, and it's chosen that they're going to go first. They have played Hawkshot, which is basically the way that this recommended elf deck is built around doing out of combat damage. So its effect here is deal 1 damage to a character for a certain cost. Normally you deal damage to the other player in the fights, but you know there are some effects like this one that allow you to deal damage outside of the combat. I'm going to play the Spear Orc, which I think will be enough to put them off of attacking me. In Rampallians, each player has an attacking round and a defending round. It's their attacking round first, and so they passed. I'm going to pass as well. When both players pass, back to back ends the round, we go back to playing our gatherers. I can see again, you know, 1 more gold to play the Fire Shaman. I think I'm going to do that because then it sets me up as well for playing the Destroyer the next round, which is a strong card. So then at the beginning of each round, you go into what's called the planning phase, which basically means that I can't attack them, they can't attack me. They couldn't use their Hawkshot's effect to do damage to my Spear Orc in that instance because we were in the planning phase, and it basically gives both players a bit of time to set up before the fighting commences for that round. So I'm going to play my Fire Shaman, and they use their Hawkshot's ability to do 1 damage to our Spear Orc. Unfortunately, the Spear Orc, it's an early game card. It's got decent attack for an early game card, but with it means it's not got very much health, and so it's not long for this world. I'm going to attack to take advantage of the situation where I have slightly better stats than they do. I've got a bit more health, I've got a bit more attack, so I'm going to attack them. This starts the sort of battle phase of Rampallians. So in Rampallians, in combat, you pick attackers and defenders in a sort of auto combat like way, similar to what you'd see in Super Auto Pet. So you can drag them around to rearrange them, and you can choose whether they're in attack or defense. These symbols at the top tell you what's going to happen. So obviously there could be card effects and things that change this, but what this is saying is their card is going to attack me first, this card's going to defend and fall back, then this card's going to attack, and then it will fall back. So this one won't take any damage unless obviously an effect or something changes that. This gatherer, this slave, will take the damage, and then the Fire Shaman will attack. And you're basically pairing up your strong attackers with strong defenders, the defenders soaking up the damage and the attackers dealing the damage. So I submitted my battle order there, and it looks like they surrendered that fight basically. They just decided they wanted to keep their units on board. It makes sense for their build where they're dealing this out of combat damage, and they wanted to keep their units alive. So now we progress to the post battle without a battle actually happening. And during the post battle, I can choose to attack one of their gatherer slots. If they had support cards on the field, I could attack one of their support cards, or I could attack their keep, which is their health, attack their life points, as it were. And given that they've only got 1 gatherer in each of these slots, and they're both on gold, they've got a decent amount of gold already, and some gold coming in. I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to choose to attack them in the face. Part of the idea behind this Orc deck is to try and get them down quickly and put them on the clock, and so that's what I'm going to do. And it looks like I made the right move because they used a special card to do damage to our Spear Orc out of combat, and that killed it. That's taken it off the board. So I'm going to use my Fire Shaman's effect to increase its attack, and then I will pass my turn, ending the round. I can see that I can play the Blade Master actually, which is probably a little bit stronger than the Destroyer. The Destroyer has 4 attack and has this effect cleave. 4 health and has this effect cleave, which essentially means that its free attack will be dealt no matter what. So if it hits a card with 2 health, normally that'd be it, but now it will deal the excess 1 damage to the card behind it. So that's what I was saying before about some card effects allowing you to go through that attack defend setup, and so that's quite strong. But the Blade Master has free health and free attacks, the same amount of attack, but it has battle move twice. It attacks twice every time, so it could potentially do 6 damage. Obviously, it doesn't have the cleave, so it could potentially just do 2 damage if it hit 2 things with 1 health. But I think at this point in the game, it's the stronger card, and so that's the one that I'm gonna pick. Okay, that's interesting. So they've used their Sorcerer's Apprentice's effect. They've got these 3 linked actions. We have this a similar thing in the Orcs decks for the Shamans, but they basically can spawn a sapling, they can deal damage and silence a card, or they can give a tree folk 2 armor. And so it's very much focused around buffing up these tree folk. So a sapling is like a base form of a tree folk. You can give it 2 wood to grow it into a young tree folk, and then you can give that excuse me, sorry, where's its unit form? There we go. So then you can then grow that into 4 different cards depending on how much you want to spend. So if you want to spend 4 wood, there's the branch tree folk or the nested tree folk. Or for 6, it's Harmonious Tree Folk and Tree Folk Warrior being quite a strong unit. All the Tree Folk can be played as either a unit or support, and they can actually swap between them during the game. So they're very versatile. The Tree Folk Warrior as a unit just has a lot of attack, but as a support card, it buffs up other +1 to all characters on the field, so it's quite strong. It gives all your gatherers, all your units, all of them extra attack, which is pretty good. So that's something to be aware of, but for now we're just going to play our Blade Master. I'm not worried about them attacking us right now, but I expect that they probably will do some out of combat damage, which yes they have. Yeah, they're basically, that's going to be their tactic for now, at least, is to try and whittle me down, whereas I'm going to be trying to push through. So let's see. I'm going to put another Gatherer on gold so that I'm closer to getting the Destroyer on the field as well. Let's see what they do. Okay, so we've drawn Warcry, which is a card that allows us to bypass the normal checks on attacking. So that's pretty good for later. Normally you'd only be able to attack once per round, or not at all if it was the other player's attacking round, but we can attack twice using that card. I noticed they've played Ashling, which is a legendary card in their deck, so it has the linked actions that I mentioned before. They can do one of these effects per round, but also it has an effect in battle. It summons a card specifically for battle, so it's quite a strong card, something to be conscious of. I'm going to use the Fire Shaman to increase the Destroyer's attack. I would prefer to put it on the Blade Master because it attacks twice, as I mentioned before, but they've already started to do damage to the Blade Master. I'm a bit worried that they will get it off the field before I have the chance to use it. There we go, they're doing a bit more damage now, and so it's down to 1 health. I'm going to attack. Despite their Ashling, I still think that we are in the better position, so I'm going to take advantage of that. So as I mentioned before, setting up attackers and defenders, I basically just want to pair everyone up, make sure that no one is taking damage when I want them to be dealing damage, and vice versa. We will see if they respond to us this time or surrender once again. Okay, so it looks like they have they've decided to attack us. And so you might have seen this card's summoned the Spirit Bow, which attacked alongside it. That's what a lot of the archers in this game do. They have a volley effect, which essentially means that when the card in front of them attacks, they attack at the same time. But that meant that slightly more damage was dealt than I anticipated, perhaps, and so a few more of my cards died, perhaps, than I initially anticipated. But we did still end up winning the battle with both our Fire Shaman and Destroyer surviving to the end, leaving us 7 attack. It's tempting to take out their food because they haven't got loads. They've got 2 foragers, but with 7 attack, you know, that's a decent chunk, nearly a third of their, nearly a quarter of their health. And so I will attack their keep, start keeping them on the clock, pushing towards the end of the game. So, what am I going to do? I think I'm going to go with my initial instinct and play the big axe onto the Destroyer. It's already got quite a lot of attack now. It's really going to be hitting very hard. Okay, that's interesting. Their Spirit Mage has a different set of effects. One of those allows it to deal damage to any character, not just a unit. They use that ability to kill one of my gatherers, which is a shame. It means that our gold income has just decreased, but it's not too bad. I don't think it's going to be turning the tide. I think we're still in the lead. I'm going to be using the opportunity to play some more Shaman cards, probably. Yeah, I'm going to get the Shaman of Life down. It means if they do keep harassing and they start attacking some of our other units, then we can use the Shaman of Life to heal them up again. The Shaman of Life's effect essentially is that you can spend any amount of gold to heal any amount of health back on a character. So that's pretty helpful in this situation. Looks like they just passed. I'm going to pass, and that will end the round, and we get to choose another gatherer. I'm going to replace the gold one that we lost earlier. Let's see what they do. Okay, they've spawned another sapling. I'm not too worried about that. I'm wondering if they are running out of momentum because then they've not got a huge amount on board, so I'm not as worried. They're probably going to keep using those out of combat damage abilities, but I still have the upper hand, so I'm going to attack them again. I'll get all of my units in, and I'm probably going to sacrifice a couple of gatherers just to absorb some hits. How are we doing? I might do a gold and a food, but then leave the rest because we've lost a fair few gatherers already, so maybe I'll take a hit on this fairly healthy Shaman, 5 health, so that's a relatively good blocker, and they will likely surrender anyway because we're not gonna kill them this round. No, and they probably want to build up their forces, so they've decided not to attack us, and we'll attack them in the keep, putting them on a timer. They're really running out of health now. 7 health left before the end of the game. And I will use that healing effect from our Shaman of Life to restore the health that we lost on the Destroyer earlier. They've passed, and so I pass as well, and that ends the round. We get to choose another Gatherer to play. It's tricky. I'm not seeing anything immediately obvious. I might put it on food just so that we can build towards that War Elephant. It's quite a strong card. Let's see what they do as well. Okay, so they've got another Elven Scout down. That was one of those cards that could deal damage to us out of combat. But we've got so much down now that I'm really not too worried about that. I might play my Orc Trapper card because it allows us to bring in all sorts of different interesting beasts and things that wouldn't normally be available in the Orc roster into the game. And it looks like they've played this Canopy Lookout, which increases this out of combat damage that the Elven Scouts, they'd normally do 1 damage, and then they'll now be doing 2. Same with that Spirit Mage, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But yeah, I will be using the effect of the Orc Trapper, so when I select the Orc Trapper, its effect is get 1 of 3 random beasts, and that can be any beast in the game. We've already got a War Elephant in our hand, actually, because of the ones that it selected this round. Each round it will regenerate these 3. I'm going to decide not to do that. I'm going to activate one of the other effects. I'm going to use the Fire Shaman's Blazing Weapon to increase the Destroyer's attack. It's at 7 attack now. It's really quite dangerous for the opponent to not do anything about that. They're using their so the Elven Gatherers, the Forager cards, they have an effect every 5 rounds. They can increase the max health of one of their other cards. So they've done that to the Sapling. I'm not too worried about that. Again, 2 health's really not too much. I might use the effect of the Shamans. All the Shamans have this effect. It's a linked action, so you basically every round you get to choose one of these 3 cards. I can either spawn a boar or a panther. I can deal 2 damage to a card on the board, or I can draw a card. I'm going to use this to get rid of that sapling. Just like they've been doing to me, I'm going to do a bit of out of combat damage to them. And we both pass, ending the round again, moving us on to the next one. I think that this game is pretty much over. I'm not seeing them coming back. They've only got 2 units. But you never know. There's always the possibility of comebacks. They do have a decent amount of income and a decent amount of resources, so won't rule them out just yet. Okay, so they've used their Pilgrim's Glade. Well, this card essentially allows them to spawn one of these 3 units based on how many resources they have. And so they've used that to spawn the best one, the strongest one that they can, the Spirit Mage. It has those linked actions that we talked about earlier, but it also, it deals out of combat damage to any character, and when it dies, it comes back as a Spirit Blade. So it's never, it's harder to kill. But I am still not too worried. We're pretty much just looking to close the game out here. I'll use the Fire Shaman's effect to bring that Destroyer's attack all the way up to 8. It's a fairly nasty combination, that, and I think this attack might close out the game. So again, I'm pairing up my attackers and defenders. I might get another Gatherer in here just to fill this gap. I don't want my Orc Trapper to take damage unnecessarily. Let's see how this goes. Those Spirit Mages, they will last a long time. They'll do some damage as well. So it's not a given, but I'm pretty sure we win this fight, and with that, likely the game, unless they manage to take out a lot of our units. Okay, yeah, so I mean the Destroyer's huge attack there just cut through their battle order. I don't think there's any coming back from that, to be honest. So the Spirit Blade that the Spirit Mage turns into has this riposte effect that they just used. It reduces the damage that they take by 2, and if it does get reduced to 0, it actually deals 2 damage back. But in that case, and in this case, it was too much, and the card was taken out. And with that, I'll attack them in the face, and that's more than enough damage to end the game. Yeah, there we go. So that's a game of Rampallians. Yeah, we played the Orcs in that one. You can click on this button here to get some stats. We could see, you know, I won every battle. I declared every attack, so that was a bit of a stomp in that respect. We can see how many resources I gained and they gained and spent. They actually gained more resources than me and spent more resources than me. So maybe it was a matter of optimization, maybe it was just because they were constantly on the back foot. They were spending to try and keep up, but they lost their early game momentum. We can see their Spirit Blade was deemed the most valuable, although I would probably say the Destroyer, with its 34 damage dealt, was more valuable. But they did take a lot of damage with those ones. So, yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll do one more game. The other way around. I'll play the elves this time, and I can speak through the other side, the other option for when you're playing the demo, and the other option for anyone who participates, and just, you know, the different play style that comes with playing the elves. So again, for those that weren't here when I started the last stream, when you start the game, I apologise for skimming through it just now. You choose a deck, and so those two things that came up before, that was the human deck and the orc deck and the elf deck that were included in the demo. When the full game releases, they'll be you'll be able to customise your own deck from the 4 factions in the game: humans, dwarfs, elves, and orcs. But in the demo, we've just included an elf and orc pre-built deck for you to try out. And then once you've selected your deck, you choose your board. So everyone gets 6 slots on the board, and they are comprised of these 4 resources. So you've got wood, gold, ore, and food, and you can choose any combination. So long as you've got one of each, the game won't let you start if you don't have one of each. But it will give you a recommended based on the cost of the cards in your deck. It tells you here what the cumulative cost is of all the cards in your deck, and so then you choose your resources based on that. Each slot passively gathers 1 resource, but we play gatherer cards to increase that passive gather rate, to play stronger and stronger cards as the game goes on, as we're building up our settlement and building towards bigger and stronger things. So we've drawn a few cards. When you start the game, you draw your hand of 5 cards, and you can choose which of these cards you would like to keep, and which of these cards you would like to shuffle back into your deck. Because these 2 special cards are to do with healing and increase. I might actually keep that one, but because these cards are sort of middle, whereas I've got a card I can play right now and a card I want to be saving for, I'm going to shuffle these 2 cards back into my deck just to see what else we get. And we drew a hawk shot, which I quite like because it can deal damage outside of combat. Based on what it costs, it's 1 food, 2 gold, and 1 wood. And as I mentioned, we will be getting these resources anyway: 1 food because we've got a food column, 1 ore because we've got an ore column, 2 gold and 2 wood. This costs 1 wood and 1 ore to use its ability. We're going to be getting so actually I can use the effect and play the card as is. I will then play my gatherer just somewhere that I think that will be useful in the future, and so I'm going to start with wood, because wood does seem to come up quite a lot in these elf decks because they're built around those tree folk, and as well as dealing out of combat damage, and both of those it's handy to have some wood for. So I'll play my Hawkshot so that I can deal that out of combat damage. The Elven Scout has the same ability, but it can only attack units, whereas the Hawkshot can attack their gatherers. It looked like they passed, so maybe they're saving their resources for the second round. It is their attacking round, so I can't attack them. Each round it alternates who can attack, but we've both just passed back to back, meaning that we end the round and I can play a gatherer now to gather more resources. So I am going to play this card onto food. Looks like we could do with a bit more food income. Okay, and they've played the Destroyer. It's a pretty nasty card that we saw earlier. All of its excess attack is dealt to cards later on in the battle order, which it definitely can add up, as we saw last game. If you start increasing its attack, it really deals a lot of damage across the entire battle order. So I'm going to play an Elven Scout, and I'm going to try to whittle that card down before it can do too much damage to us. What are the costs of these? So this one costs 2 wood, and this one costs an ore and a wood, so I can actually play both to do 2 damage to the Destroyer, which is pretty good. I only had full health to begin with, and now it's down to 2. So feeling relatively good about that. I'm not going to attack just yet because that 5 attack is still pretty scary. It would go through almost anything that I threw at it. So I'll just pass, and that ends the round because they passed the turn before. So what cards do we have in our hand? I think it could be a good idea to go on gold. I'm not sure if I'll play it yet, but this Hall of Elders card, if you get more and more gold, can be very good because it allows you to spawn cards, play cards essentially, straight from your deck without drawing them. So that's quite strong. You don't get to choose the cards. It will give you 3 cards to pick from randomly each round. And so if you don't like the ones that it's given you that round, you can always wait till the following round to see what you get. I'm going to use this Ancient Blessing, which is a special card that just increases one of my characters' health and attack by 1. So I'm going to put it on my Hawkshot, take it up from a 2/2 to a 3/3. Okay, they've decided to attack me, and because I'm still quite concerned about that Destroyer, I'm just going to surrender. I want to keep my cards alive for now. I don't see myself winning this fight. Right now, I think the tactic for me is to delay so that I can continue to use my out-of-combat damage. So I'm just going to surrender that fight and let them through. In the post-battle, the gatherers they included, they can't participate. So because I didn't put any units in, the fight doesn't happen, but we go straight into what's called the post-battle. They can choose if they want to attack my settlers, my gatherers, sorry. My support unit cards, if I have any. I don't have any support cards on the board right now, but if I'd played that Hall of Elders, then they could attack it. But they have decided to attack my keep, which is essentially my health, my life points. And so they put me on a bit of a timer there, 8 health. You know, it's not the end of the world, but we can't do that too many times. I'm going to use my extra wood to do my out of combat damage, get that Destroyer down to 1 health, just to try and get that off the board because it's a real concern. I could play this card, but I'm going to leave it for now. It allows me to spawn more later, but seeing as at the minute spawn more cards, these 3 unit cards, but seeing as we're a bit on the back foot right now, I'd be worried that they'd attack the card before I had the opportunity to use it. So I'm just going to pass. I'm going to play another Gatherer onto gold and still keep building towards the ability to use these Hall of Elders effects, which I think will definitely come in handy if the game gets into the sort of mid to late game. Okay, so they've got that Fire Shaman down. As we saw last game, that Fire Shaman Destroyer combination is very nasty. So I'm very happy to see that we've managed to get the Destroyer down to 1 health. I'm just hoping that they don't manage to play another one. And I'm going to play this Elven Sorceress. The Sorceress cards in the Elf deck have linked actions, just like the Shaman cards in the Orc deck, but the Elf cards, they can choose to spawn a sapling, deal 1 out of combat damage and silence an enemy card for the round, or give a tree folk 2 more armor, so buffing tree folk. And then this card specifically deals extra damage, so deals a burn, actually I should say, when they're in attack. So burn means that whenever the opponent does their thing, whenever they either attack or defend, depending on what that unit is set to, they take a damage. Or blind means that the attack of that card is reduced when it attacks this card, when it's in defense. So it's a handy card to have. It's certainly not game changing, but it's good to have around, definitely. I'm going to use my out of combat damage to get rid of that Destroyer. It's pretty nasty, 5 attack. Let's just get it off the field, not have to worry about it. And then I can either use this card. How much wood do I have? I have 2 wood, so I could actually use both my Hawk Shot and then my Elven Sorceress to get rid of their Spear Orc as well. And so without doing any fighting at all, we've basically taken out all of their units from the field. And so I think that we probably can fight now. I think that we've delayed for long enough that we can probably sacrifice a Gatherer as a defender. And then maybe our Elven Scout as well. And we will likely win any fight. I mean, their main card here is the Fire Shaman on a 3-2. Their Gatherers on the Orcs side do have more health and more attack. So they are useful in combat. But yeah, we've got a 3-3 and a 4-2. I think that we have the upper hand in this fight. And just to explain again, we have defenders and attackers that will take turns. But it looks like they've surrendered that fight and we've moved on to the post-battle. So I could choose to attack their Gatherers based on their resources. I mean, it doesn't look like they've optimized perfectly. They've got 2 Gatherers on food when they're making a lot of food, and they've got a lot of food, so there's no real need to take those out. I could take the gold out because they've clearly been using it, but I'd only take out 1 Gatherer for all 3 of my cards. I don't have loads of attack, but 6 attack, 20% of their health. I'm gonna attack their keep and sort of return the favour a bit through earlier. They've still got more health than me, but I think that the tides are turning and the game is going more in my favour as we've stuck it out and harassed them down to a position of favourability to ourselves. I might put this Gatherer on Ore just because we've been using Ore for our Hawk Shot. We need Ore eventually for the Hall of Elders. It's not something that comes up loads in this deck, but I think that we could do with a little more just to keep us going, keep the machine whirring. I'm going to play another Elven Scout. I know I won't be able to use both of their abilities just because we don't have the wood for that. But it's good to have it for the future, and it's good to have another unit down on the field just to keep us protected. This is a pretty nasty thing that's happening up here though. So their Fire Shaman, they can spend 2 wood to give a character an extra attack, and this Blade Master has battle move twice, so it attacks twice and it's now on 4 attack, which is pretty nasty. We probably need to do something about that, so I'm going to start by using the Elven Sorceress, because even if we don't kill the Blade Master this turn, we can silence it, so it does 1 damage, and it's silenced now, which means it won't attack twice, it'll only attack once. It's a lot less threatening now, and maybe even enough for them to not attack us this round, which it looks like they haven't. That's all the better for us, because the longer they delay, the more our advantage as we harass them and get their units' health down as the game goes on. It only goes into our favour. The Orcs really want to win the game early. The longer the game goes on, the more it swings in the favour of the Elves. Having said that, they've just played one of their late game cards, probably one of the strongest cards in this Orc deck, Balor. It has a lot of health and a decent amount of attack, but if it's put at the front of the enemy battle order, it gives all of the other cards in the battle order +2 attack, and that's pretty nasty. So, a bit concerning, but I think we're doing okay. Next round I'll probably play this Hall of Elders. I might even, though it might seem odd, I might just pass now, and then when they take their turn, I can attack them once the planning phase is over. I can't attack in the planning phase. I don't have any cards in my hand I want to play right now, and so I'm just going to delay. They've buffed up their Balor even more. Yeah, it really is a bit concerning, but I am going to take out their Blade Master, get one of their units off the field, and then we can really focus on whittling down the 8 health on that Balor. We've actually have this Fey Bomb in our hand. It's a special card that essentially does a similar thing to, well, it's the same thing as the Elven Sorcerer's effect, in that it does 1 damage and it also silences the card. So if they do use Balor in a fight, it no longer gives the +2 attack to all the other cards in the battle order, and that's a good thing in my book, because it's pretty scary. And so, if I'm correct, I can use both the attack from the Elven Sorceress and the one from the Hawk Shot. So I'm going to do that rather than the Elven Scout, which would be that would be it if I used the Elven Scout's effect. I don't know if it's worth attacking at this point. That Balor still 5/4 is a pretty scary card, with their Gatherers as well taking a lot of damage. I'd be a bit too concerned to fight right now, so I'm just going to pass. We'll get some more resources and see what we get when we play our Hall of Elders finally, something that we've been building towards for pretty much the whole game. We had it in our hand at the start of the game, but now we can play it. And we should also be able to activate its effect to play a unit card from our deck. So fingers crossed for something good. Okay, yeah, they've used their Fire Shaman on the Destroyer. I didn't mention the Destroyer when they played it down, but as we said before, that's a pretty nasty combination, the Fire Shaman and the Destroyer. We want to try and keep that suppressed. And I said earlier, unit card, it's actually any card from your deck for the 5 gold, so we could play some of these support cards. I might play this Fountain of Growth. I wouldn't say no to a couple of extra wood every turn, so that's not so bad in my book. But yeah, it looks like they've attacked, and I am not in a place where I want to fight this, so I'm just going to press the bell and send all of my units back to the board, because I don't want to cover up against their Destroyer and their Balor. I haven't had the chance to silence them yet because I was in the planning phase, and so no, I'll let them do that. Okay, and so as we progress straight to the post-battle, Balor would normally give all of the other cards +2 attack, but that's only for the battle itself. When we go into the post-battle, that's worn off, and so It's not as bad. It still does 10 damage though to my keep, which is fairly nasty. If they get some more units down, then we could be in a sticky situation. We have been neglecting our forager effect, so every 5 rounds our foragers can increase one of our cards' max health, so I'm gonna utilise that now to increase some of the stats of my cards on the board. And I will use the silence just to, even though they're not going to be able to use the effect now anyway, let's just try and get that big legendary card off the field. So we progress again to the next round. Let's think about what we're going to do. I think I'm going to put even more resources on gold. We've got a decent amount already, I know, but I like to be able to keep playing that Horde of Elders effect. Okay, they've played yet another legendary card. That's slightly concerning, just because this card basically just gets stronger and stronger the longer it's on the field, but it does have to sacrifice other cards in order to do so, and so I don't think there's anything here right now that it's going to want to get rid of. So in that case, not super concerned right now. I'm going to play the spell sword. So the spell sword, it can use the spell effects that the sorceress, it's a mage just like the sorceress, so it's got this linked action, but it also has the different stances based on whether it's an attack or defense. It either burns the enemy when it attacks, or it gains an extra 2 armor just for that battle, which the temporary health in that situation is quite good. It essentially means that, if it takes less than that 2 damage, then that's free health that it will essentially regain next combat. It does look like their Fire Shaman is continuing to increase the attack of this destroyer, which is really quite concerning. Nothing that we could have done about that because we couldn't use our silence in the planning phase, but we can look at what to do now. So either we silence Balor. I think that's probably the move, because if they decide to... Oh, it's our attacking round. So not worried about their Balor using its effect. The Fire Shaman's already used his. Albert is not going to use theirs on any of these, so it's basically just which card do we want to kill now. And I'm between the Destroyer and Balor at this point. I think I might actually change to attacking the Destroyer, because that 5 attack cleave is really nasty. Thankfully, now that we've got a real supply in our wood, we can do this quite a lot. In fact, I think we can take their destroyer out completely. So that's good. That's very good. And we can even get another Elven Scout down. I'm just wondering if we actually want to, because we can't afford to use its effect right now. I might just leave that for now. I'm going to use the Forager's effect to increase our Spell Sword's health. We've got a few beefy cards on the board now, just because we've managed to delay the game for long enough. I'm not sure if we're in a position to attack or not. Their Balor, I didn't silence in the end. Perhaps I should have. If it might have put us in a better position to actually attack. But we are starting to look like we've got the upper hand. But I'm going to pass just for now. I just want to be extra sure, extra safe before I do something like that, because I've set up such a good board. If it all came crashing down now, then yeah, it could be detrimental. I've only got 12 health. if it only takes one bad attack before they could be looking at taking me out. Let's see what we get from our Hall of Elders. I'm going to play another Spell Sword. I like the Spell Sword's ability to absorb a bit of attack each time for free. Let's see what they do. Okay, they've played a Shaman of the Skies. That's a good card. When it attacks the first time in combat, it deals 1 damage to every card. So if I've got a very big battle order, which it looks like I probably will, all of them will take 1 damage, and so that's pretty nasty. I do want to use this Forager's effect, but because it's their attacking round, I'm not sure if they'd attack me or not. Especially with Balor's effect, I really don't want them to use that. So I'm just going to silence them for now to stop him giving two attack to all the other cards in their battle order. It looks like they have decided to attack. That's interesting. I'm not sure if that's the right move. It is. They do have a lot of good cards, but so do we. It's certainly not risk-free, but I think I probably will attack them back. I'm just having a think. Yeah, I think if we use some of our foragers, I'm going to take this one out because it's got its effect ready. I want to save that one for later. But some of the ones we've got lots of wood, we've got a decent amount of gold, we've definitely got a lot of food. So these ones I don't mind sacrificing so much. I'll probably put the food one at the front. This Elven Scout, you know, it's there can be used to block a couple of attacks as well. Might put the foragers forward. Just because they can go first, and then I'll have this Spell Swords on attack. I know I said I like their defense ability, and I do, but they also have a good attacking ability. They will burn the opponents, which means that they will take damage every time that they attack or defend. So that's pretty nice. I'm just thinking, just for those that don't know already, when I'm setting up my combat here, I'm basically pairing up these attackers and defenders. This guy is going to attack first, and then he's going to fall to the back. That's why I've put them in the front in attack. And then this one's in defense. They'll take a hit and fall to the back. It's similar to Super Auto Pets, but rather than everyone attacking at once, we take it in turns in a sort of queue, as it were. So yeah, my Hulk Shot attacks first and then goes to the back of the battle order there. Card then attacks and hits my card in defense, which died. It's all going relatively as we'd expect for now. But there's that Shaman of the Skies dealing 1 damage to everything. That is unfortunate. It did do a lot of damage, but I still think we're doing okay. They do have a very strong battle order still. I was possibly a bit overzealous in attacking. I possibly should have waited, but there's that burn taking out Balor. That's all good in that respect. You know, taking out a legendary card's possibly worth it, but we have lost a lot for it. And there we go, we do a lot of damage to their other legendary card. But we are going to lose the combat by the looks of things, which is a shame, but only just. They've only got 2 cards, both with 1 health and 1 attack left. So that's not too bad. Certainly not going to lose us the game, but it might not have been the right call. And thankfully I do have another Elven Scout in my hand, which I will get down. And I will use the effect to get rid of that legendary card before they get the the resources to build that card back up again, let's just nip it in the bud. Let's have a look. What do we have in our hand? I'm tempted to put down one of these Pilgrim's Glades. It will mean that we can spawn some units next round, especially because we don't have any units in our hand right now, so we don't know what we're going to draw. That's that. Then I used my Forager's effect to give my Elven Scout one more health, and I've passed to end the round. What are the costs here with this? I think the Spirit Mage is a very good card. We also need 5 to try the Hall of Elders, so let's put another card down on gold to get that 5th gold so that we can have a look at those 2 effects and decide which we want to do. So, the Hall of Elders, I'm not feeling that, so I'm going to use the Pilgrim's Glade to spawn the Spirit Mage. The Spirit Mage is a very strong card. It has the linked actions that the other mages in the elf deck have, so it can spawn a sapling. It can deal an extra damage or silence, and silence, sorry, excuse me, or give 2 armor to a tree folk. But it also has an additional deal 1 damage, so it can essentially do it twice if that's your choice. And when it dies, it turns into a Spirit Blade, so it stays in the game for a little longer. I'm going to use my Elven Scout to get rid of that Shaman of the Skies, and let's see what they've got. It looks like they just passed, so possibly they don't have any other units in their hand. I think I might take the opportunity to attack, although seeing as they passed, I'm going to use my Forager's effect to get that 1 extra health. Every little helps. We don't have loads and loads of damage. In fact, we'll only have 3 damage in the post-battle, but it's definitely more than enough to take out their Shaman of Goldor. Interestingly, the Shaman of Goldor has Scout, and that essentially means that they will be able to see the cards that I submit in my battle order before they decide if they're going to fight or not. So there's no bluffing, there's no attacking and not including gatherers because you hope they'll surrender. They definitely know exactly what you'll be submitting, and they've decided to surrender. We said I normally do set my battle up. I very rarely bluff, but I know some people do. So 3 damage. We could take out one of their gatherers, but I think I'm going to use it on their health, on their keep, because we need to whittle them down. We don't have huge amounts of attack. We're very focused on out of combat damage, and we don't have a way in this deck of dealing out of combat damage to their face. So we're just going to have to do it over time. I will use this Ancient Blessing to improve our Spirit Mage's stats before ending the round. Now, I possibly should move a Gatherer. We've got more wood than we know what to do with. So I'm going to play this Gatherer onto gold. And then I'm going to use this free action Relocate, which allows me to move 1 Gatherer at the start of a round. And I move that Gatherer onto food. Let's see what we've got in Hall of Elders. Yeah, I think I'm going to play this Spirit Blade. The Spell Sword, sorry. Okay, they've got their Fire Shaman down. They're buffing up their Shaman of Goldor, but I'm not too worried about that. It's not a massively strong attacking card. And actually, I think we should possibly start taking some of those cards out of the game, ready for us to have another attack next round. Okay, again I'm just going to have a quick look at what the Hall of Elders is giving us. That's interesting. The Spirit Mage and Canopy Lookout. Canopy Lookout is a strong card for us because it increases that out of combat damage that we're doing to 2. But because we want to end the game, I'm going to go with the Spirit Mage. We want to try and push for the finish. If we wanted to harass them more, then Canopy Lookout would probably be the card to choose, but to try and push us towards the end of the game, then maybe Spirit Mage is better. They are getting more and more cards down. Perhaps they've drawn a few more unit cards. I'm going to use this silence on the Shaman of the Skies in case I do decide to attack. I don't want them able to use its effect. It's a very strong effect. And I'll use my Elven Scout to kill their Fire Shaman. And I think we should attack. We do want to try and close this game out. Okay, that's slightly annoying. That they've played the Shaman Tent, which is a fairly weak card, but it has given 2 health to their 2 Shamans. The Shaman of Goldor and Shaman of Skies now have 2 more health, which is it's just going to mean that we're not going to punch through quite as much as I might have liked. But I'm going to use this Forager's effect to increase our Spell Sword's stats. And then I'm going to attack. And so, for those that haven't seen us yet, when you attack in Rampallians, it's essentially an auto-battler. But both players sort of into an orderly cube to attack each other. So we start with this one at the front. That's in defense. It's going to absorb an attack. And then if it survived, it's going to go to the back. It's unlikely to survive because it's only got 1 health. And so then my attacker comes forward, and that one does its damage, and then retreats to the back. However, that one doesn't do very much damage, so I'm going to move it slightly further back. I'm going to bring a couple of our gatherers in to absorb a few hits for our attackers, to try and keep our attackers alive. I'm going to move this one forward just because it does a little bit more damage, and I think that will work nicely. Let's see what they do. Their Shaman of the Skies is silenced. We don't have enough attack to kill them here. They have that Shaman of Goldor on the board with Scout, which means that they can see my battle order and decide if they want to attack, or if they don't think that they can win, they can surrender just to keep their units alive for another time. But that does mean that we'll either be able to... Yep, that's what they've done. That means that we can choose now. We can attack their Shaman Tent. That would deal 2 damage essentially to the 2 Goldors, because they'd lose the 2 Shamans, sorry, because they'd lose their health from the Shaman Tent from that passive. We could attack their Gatherers. That would mean that they'd lose some of their income, but I'm going to decide to attack them in the face because I need to try and close this game out. And we're actually starting to build up a decent amount of attack now, so that's pretty good. They're down to 13 health. They're actually only on a little bit more than us now, and we've got 2 forager effects that we can use to buff up our other cards on the board, so I'm going to do that. And then we will end the round. Okay, they've got yet another Shaman down on the field. The Shaman of Life already has 5 health, and now with the Shaman Tent, that's up to 7. So I'm going to use... Oh, it's still the planning phase. Excuse me. I can't silence it yet, but I can... I've got a lot of wood. I'm going to spawn a sapling so that we can get one of the tree folk down on the board. Okay, that Shaman of Life is a little bit of a counter to our harassment because she can heal up the other cards on the board. It's essentially for X amount of gold, she can heal X health, and so when we're dealing damage, she can just heal it right back up. Let's see. I think we'll probably play that Spirit Mage in a bit, but for now, let's grow our sapling into something more formidable. And I like, for the idea of closing the game out, the idea of growing it into a Tree Folk Warrior. They've got 4 attack, they've got 5 health, it's a very strong card. The elves don't have a lot of beefcake, it's not quite their beefcakes, it's not quite their style, but the Tree Folk Warrior breaks that mold to a certain extent. And I'm going to use my silence to take out their shaman tent, reduce their healths back down to what they would normally be. And they just keep passing. They don't want to attack us. They're worried. It's probably about our Tree Folk Warrior, but I'm sure they've got lots of things to be worried about. Now, I'm going to deal a little bit of damage to the Shaman of the Skies. It's probably the most dangerous of their shamans just because of that 1 damage it deals to everyone in my battle order. Means that if I want to put some gatherers into block, it is going to make that hard for me. And I'm going to end the round by using this special card to increase my Tree Folk Warrior's stats, increasing its health, increasing its attack. Now it's essentially got 6 defense and 5 health, 5 attack. Sorry, so it's becoming more and more of a force to be reckoned with. Gold is what we seem to be lacking the most, so that's where I'm going to play my gatherer. Oh, interesting. They've managed to play a Blade Master. I really don't like to see that. I might just go... Oh, it's very tricky. It's my attacking round, so I'm going to... Oh, it's still in the planning phase as well, so I can't attack them just yet. But my plan is to... I'm not going to play any of those. My plan is to destroy the Shaman tent and then silence the Blade Master. I might try and silence the Shaman of the Skies as well. I think I've got enough silences for that. I've got this Fade Bomb, I've got this 2 Spirit Mages, I've got the Spell Sword. We've got a lot of silences. Actually, we could probably silence 4 of their cards, as well as killing the Shaman tent. So I'm just going to play another Hawk Shot, couple more attack damage to help us win the game. Oh, interesting. So their shamans, they have this linked action. They can actually deal 2 damage to a card on my side of the board. They decided to use the last of their gold to do that. They attack my Spirit Mage. That's a little bit annoying, but probably not as annoying as I'm about to be. So we've silenced their Blade Master, and then I'm going to silence but effectively destroy their Shaman's tent, reducing the Shaman's healths back down to where they should be again and for the last time. And now I'm going to start taking cards off of their side of the field. I might silence their Shaman of Goldor so they can't see exactly how my battle order is going to look when I attack, and then I'm going to reduce the health of that Blade Master. In fact, I'm going to kill it altogether. And now that I've spent all of my attacking ability, I'm going to use this Forager's effect. It's often one that I overlook just because it's a free effect that you get, but it's only every 5 rounds. But once you start getting into the late game, that starts coming up every round. So it is quite strong. It's quite a strong ability of the elves. But it's time to hopefully end this game. Okay, so it's going to plan at the minute. We lost a lot of our gatherers, but we shouldn't be needing those anymore. We don't need any more resources once the game's done. We've lost that elven scout there, which is a little bit of a shame, but it's only had 1 attack, so I'm not too worried about that. There we go. There's that burn, which has condemned that orc trapper to death. They did take out my spirit mage, but it comes back as a spirit blade. Essentially just losing 1 attack, and that's that. That's the fight. That's the game. I'm going to choose to attack their face, obviously, which will do enough. Unless I am... Yeah, no, there we go. That's just enough, just the right amount to end the game. And that's it. That's another game of Rampallians. I've shown you now both the factions, the elves and the orcs. I hope that was interesting. I hope that will help you in deciding if you want to play the game, and I hope if you do that you enjoy it. I appreciate any feedback, in the chat, in the comments if I upload this to YouTube, and just on Steam or anywhere that you can find me. On Twitter, you can find us on Discord. Let us know. Thanks very much.